Thanks very much. I'm really delighted to be here, and one of the reasons was that when I took over in November 2014, one of my key priorities was to consider the future after QOF and look to see if we could find something better. So to be here and to see all of you taking that forward is just fantastic, and I'm very proud of the small part the college has played in that. One of the bits that I want to talk about is actually, it's a certain amount of difference between value and values, and maybe a small part, but I think it's absolutely crucial. And it's something, an opportunity that we've got to address with our approach just now. I do like this end of our motorcycle maintenance. What do we mean by quality? He says that quality is those things, you say what quality is, apart from the things that have it, it all goes poof. So what is the betterness? And more specifically to general practice, Iona Heath says that actually we risk destroying quality in our attempt to measure it. And I think it's something we've all been very aware of with the whole business that we've had with QOF, that it's only been one small part of what we've been trying to achieve. And Charles Goodhart said that when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. So what does that mean? I think I first became really interested in the idea of quality when I was invited to work with RCGP Scotland on the vision document in 2011. I'm quite honest, I had very little idea about quality then, but I was delighted that that document started to talk about professional values and actually how we incorporate those into future definitions of quality. Our professional values aren't new. This is Perry Harrison, who I had the pleasure of meeting just under a year ago. He, when he was 100, he was a GP in Blainfield, just 12 miles from here. And he designed our college coat of arms, but he also was involved in the college motto, Cum Sentia Caritas. That idea about caring and science, or knowledge and compassion, being combined as part of what we do as general practice, clearly struck a chord with him, and it clearly meant something when we discussed it. And I shared that. A GP who's coming 50 years after him, aware that there's such a common thread that lasts long term through what we do. And these sort of enduring values are the sort of things that we have to take account of, because they will continue to be valued in the future. We incorporated his motto into the core values paper that we wrote last summer. We wanted to put down in black and white what those core values might be and some ways of addressing them. And we talked about Barbara Starfield's 4 C's. We incorporated the 5 tests of integrated care, 6 key advantages of general practice, and the 10 key roles. Hopefully we're beginning to get an idea that actually it is a complex role. I think it is very complex, and Alan hints at that. I'm delighted to see that these sort of core values are becoming incorporated into our ways of thinking. It is about context, it's the comprehensiveness of our care, continuity, and that business of coordination is going to become ever more necessary. And we must be aware of the words that Barbara Starfield said about the key merits of general practice and primary care, and really the key merits of generalism as being the solution to how we deal with the situation we find ourselves at the present time and for the future. Well, it's all very well talking about core values for us in practice, but actually, well, what about the core values of our work in clusters? I'm going to offer you 3 slides which I suggest are going to be important. So the first one I'm going to suggest is quality is more than counting. It is actually about location and staffing. Things were transformed in my practice when we finally moved into a new premises, but we need the staff that are there. I know the pressure practices are under with difficulties of recruitment and lack of staffing, not of GPs and other members of the staffing. We can't lose sight of that. But it's also about the actions. And I commend HIS's work with the Scottish Patient Safety Programme to start to look at actually what we're doing in practice to make sure that the doing bit is correct. College has got a long role in talking about capability, about actually do we have the skills that we need to do the work we're doing. We get to look at that with a delightful college exam and with our appraisal. And it actually, underpinning all of this, again, is the values, that we do need to be clear about what the core values are. And I've included distilling the essence of general practice, which is a paper of my predecessor, John Gillies and others, about their work to try and clearly identify what that is. The next point is that actually clinicians do care deeply about quality, particularly when we phrase it in the ways we did in my previous slide. This is why we need a peer-based approach, but it's essential that it's data-informed. We've had data for a long, long time, but my feeling is that what happens is when you get challenging data, there's a yes, but statement comes from the practice involved. Unless it's a peer-based thing, nothing goes further. So let's start having the decisions after the yes, but. Let's start having the decisions to actually look into the variations in data and actually to ideas about what we're going to do. To do that, we must be enabled to create that change. I believe that clusters at the very best will do that. I believe that they will be supported by health boards, IJBs, to bring about those changes, and actually to release the gumption that GPs undoubtedly have to change things and make things the best they can for their patients. And it's also about the intrinsic and extrinsic quality. So for me, this is a particular joy, because my second priority was to look at the interface of care between general practice and the rest of the NHS. It's quite clear that we live in ever increasingly complex health and social care networks. I don't think team is inappropriate to talk about the complexity of this network that we work in, with the primary care being the pink bunch in the middle. For any individual patient, they will have a team that's drawn from that network, but we must have that network literacy to understand how we all work together, how do we interact with each other, are we clear about each of our roles, and where are the really important hubs of activity in our networks. The final thing is actually about transformational change. Let's not be under any doubt that if we develop structures which embody our shared values and actually develops the trust and the teamwork, this is going to be the root of transformational change. It will happen. This is one of the huge spin-offs about clusters. It's not just about doing small aspects of quality improvement work, but it's actually about building the primary care community and the role within that of general practice to make lasting change. So what are the things which are going to decide the success or failure of what we do? I'm absolutely convinced it's about to do with relationships within clusters, and it's about relationships outside of that. It's about how changes are empowered to be made and from all the organizations around about it. That's going to stress us, and I'm very grateful for David to share his own comments about what it feels like to take on leadership roles. That seems absolutely right. This is going to stress us to take on new roles, to work out how we do that, and actually what are our leadership capabilities, what are our quality improvement capabilities to bring that about. Data quality is going to be a real issue. I was delighted to be along at meeting with Skimp and Spire yesterday when we started to talk about what are the needs going to be for actually recording, using our data in practices, and how that fits with a wider bit. It's not just about recording, it's also about the data analysis. So I'm very grateful for Scottish Government's realising that and stressing the importance of actually making some sort of sense about the information that we've got. And underneath it, I go back to this business about it being peer-led and values-driven. So it does seem to be happening. I'm delighted to see NHS Highland here today, who ran a fantastic event on the 13th of January, which I was very glad to be asked to speak at. This was just one of the comments from the group, as I've never known a time when GP communication has been so good. I was absolutely blown away by the energy in that room, which is a little bit cosier than it is here today. And I'm blown away by the support that NHS Highland is giving to that process too, as far as the responding to the needs for leadership, quality improvement, and the support that's going on. It does seem that all the clusters, at least in Highland, are coming at things from different approaches, and the stimulation and sparking off each other of the different approaches was very noticeable. So, and that's all in the first year. It's really promising. I hope that's being replicated across Scotland. I believe it is. And the fact that so many of you are here today suggests that we may well be onto the right way of going things. That's all I want to say today. I think we're really in the right place. Please remember the core values about what we are trying to do in practice. I do think those need to be replicated in our clusters. But if we get our values together and start to work together in teams, we can really make some huge changes. Thank you very much.
So I'd like to thank all the keynote speakers, both for their contribution and for keeping to time, which they've done remarkably well. The remainder of the day is going to be much more interactive. We've been sitting around listening for the last hour. Hopefully from now on, it's going to be a lot more discussion and conversations around the tables. Before going to coffee, I just thought a few comments, just listening to the keynote speakers, to think about what they were saying. Richard was describing today's about promoting conversations and ongoing conversations, and he asked specifically about what's feedback he wants to hear what CQLs want to have going forward. Do you want more national events? Do you want more regional events? What support and help would you need? Gregor described the development of the Improving Together framework and the constant learning about the development of clusters. Again, what support would be required? Is it around Healthcare Improvement Scotland? They mentioned the Scottish School of Primary Care and some of the briefing notes, but there's support out there, but what more support do you need going forward? Alan gave a view from the BMA and described the GP role about improving patient care and leading change. So this is a role that CQLs will have in leading change. David gave an interesting discussion about the changes that are taking place and also the direction of travel and a degree of uncertainty and discomfort, and that's okay to feel uncomfortable at times. He described multidisciplinary team working and development of CQLs. And I was lucky enough to speak to some of the people from Renfrewshire, and I think he's being slightly modest. I think some of the work they've been doing in Renfrewshire is quite impressive, around the 30, 60-day, 90 learning they're doing. And he described an improvement-based conversation. That's what we're having, and building trust between practices, clusters, and our health and social care partnerships. And lastly, Miles was asking the question, what is quality? Where are the role of clusters in quality? Something to think about. And what's the role of clusters in transformation of primary care? So lots to think about, and perhaps if you can take some of that away in coffee time and bring it back for Brian's session, it'd be really, really good to just think about those issues as we're having discussions the rest of the day. So we're going to have questions. The other thing is we're going to have questions at the end of Brian's session. I know normally we might have a chance for questions now, but just with time, we thought we'd break for coffee, have Brian's session, and have questions at the end of that. So if you have questions, please keep them, and we'll use them at the end of Brian's session. And if it's okay, we'll break for coffee, and we'll be back at 22:12, if that's okay. Thank you.